You're listening to Witch Wednesdays, your weekly podcast source for all things witchcraft in the modern world. Welcome back to Witch Wednesdays. I'm Steph, and I have a guest here with me today. I think this is actually somebody that a lot of you might know because of the YouTube channel that we are going to discuss. But I'm going to let them introduce themselves first and let you know where you can find them online.
Hi, my name is Bente. I am the Norse Witch on mainly YouTube, but also on other platforms like Instagram and TikTok and stuff. That I use mainly as shit posting platforms though. So yeah, my main platform is YouTube. I make mainly content on like witchy stuff and Norse paganism because that's like my two main focuses. Yeah, and I don't know if that's important for your listeners. You can call me by whatever pronouns you like. I don't really care.
Fair enough. I think a lot of my listeners are familiar with your YouTube channel because I think it has been a really great resource for beginners and also a great introduction into Norse paganism, which I know a lot of people are fascinated with lately. And there hasn't been a ton of great information out there. It's sort of hidden away. So I think a lot of people have found you through that and through that platform.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. At least like a lot of channel, a lot of other like Norse paganism focused channels have kind of like an entry threshold. Like I don't think they're that easy to consume for beginners. So I try to make everything as easy as possible.
Yeah, I think that is true, that they sort of start off assuming that you know the basics, and there are a lot of basics in Norse paganism. It's a really a tough one. So I'd love to talk about sort of how you got started in witchcraft and how that led to Norse paganism and a successful YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's actually quite the I don't know if it's that much of a short story, but I feel like a lot of people come to witchcraft and paganism by wanting to get away from Christianity, which for me, that was actually not that much the case because I was raised pretty much without any religion. But I just noticed pretty quickly as a teenager that something was kind of missing. So I kind of started dabbling in some religions. Like I started dabbling in Christianity because I mean, of course, that's like the first thing that you can think of, but pretty quickly noticed that that's like not my thing. Then I dabbled in Buddhism, also figured out that that's not my thing, and then kind of stopped practicing any religions or researching any religions at that point because I didn't even know about any more like fringe religions. I only knew about the big ones and thought like, yeah, none of them are for me, apparently. So I'll just stop searching. And yeah, so then I was an atheist for quite some time until actually, for some reason, and I don't remember why, but I'm a pretty avid YouTube watcher. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos. And for some reason, at some point, I found a YouTube video by Harmony Nice back when she still made YouTube videos. I have no clue why, because none of the content I watched was like remotely witchy, like nothing at all. It was more like comedy stuff. And then at some point, I stumbled upon a video of Harmony Nice and like got into the whole sphere of Wicca, because back in the days that was basically what you ended up with.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like that's the case for basically anyone who got into it like maybe like 5 to 10 years ago. Everyone started as a Wiccan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I was a solitary Wiccan for quite some time, but I kind of fell into the witchcraft and Wicca rabbit hole fairly quickly. I started like binge reading books like heavily, one book after another. The classics, like I don't know, I think I started with Scott Cunningham, also like a lot of people did.
Also
But
classic, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, pretty quickly I figured out that actually like Norse types of like Norse paganism and Norse types of magic are quite interesting to me. But it took me some years to figure out that I am actually a Norse pagan, because in the beginning I didn't even want to work with any deities or spirits or anything. So
I was going to say that's quite interesting to go from atheism to a whole pantheon of deities. That's quite a leap. And
yeah,
very interesting
yeah.
one. I don't hear that very often.
Yeah, that was quite the change. I feel like it was kind of like my the end of my teenage years and the beginning of my 20s, where I was just like, I was so negative. Like I was such a nihilist and didn't believe in anything. And I thought like the whole world is just shit. And yeah, I don't know. And I didn't really believe in anything. So yeah, I still think it's quite interesting that I got into Wicca that quickly from like hard atheism.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then into Norse paganism. Yeah, that's quite a leap, but super interesting, because I agree with you that a lot of people leave Christianity and find witchcraft. So it's very interesting that you came from that sort of background where that didn't even happen. You even tried to look into Christianity and decided it wasn't for you, and then went the atheist route.
I feel like that's more of a European thing, though, especially like in Germany. Not a lot of people actually grow up Christian nowadays. So yeah, I feel like in Germany it's more of a you grow up maybe like a little bit with like a little bit of Christian ideas or something, but not like really Christian like.
So were you able to find any community around you once you started either as a Wicca or into Norse paganism, or was that hard because it's just not that common?
Yeah, it was quite difficult, I have to say. I was pretty lucky that at least I found an online community pretty quickly, because I still remember that Harmony Nice worked together with the Witches and Pagans Amino app, I think, back then, and there was a German community there, and then some people started a WhatsApp group. So I jumped into this WhatsApp group pretty quickly, and I'm actually still in that WhatsApp group with the same people. So,
oh wow.
So that's kind of cool. Shout out to them, because that group is really cool. Yeah, so at least I had a kind of online community pretty quickly, so I could talk about it, because like around me nobody was interested in that. Like my then boyfriend gave me a lot of shit for being a witch and being interested in that kind of stuff. But yeah, in-person communities in Germany are very hard to find. And I already live in one of the biggest cities in Germany, and it still was quite difficult, especially finding a community that is not heavily culturally appropriating, because that topic kind of isn't really a thing in Germany. It is becoming more of a thing now, I feel like, through TikTok. But especially back in the days, that was like, it was not a thing. Like it was very new agey, if you found people. But I actually did find some people. I think over that WhatsApp group there was actually my now best friend. So shout out to Joss. Yeah, they actually knew some other people in my town, so I could meet up with some people. But that group, like, yeah, we weren't really meeting that regularly, and I feel like most people weren't into it that intensely, or like as intensely as I was. So in general, finding groups of like-minded groups of people in Germany is pretty hard. But now I find a coven, so yay.
Oh, that's really exciting, actually.
Yeah, and like of course, our high priestess who like founded the coven is from the US. So
Oh.
I feel like Germans don't really create covens. I don't know. I feel like we're a nation of introverts.
And I do think that witchcraft appeals to a lot of people for that very reason, is that you can do something totally on your own and be completely introverted, because I understand that too. There are days where I am very happy to be solitary because I just don't want to go out
Yeah.
and interact with people in the world.
Yeah, I feel that as an extreme introvert with social anxiety, I really feel that. That's also why I was very heavily solitary for the longest time. But now that I am in a coven, I value that so much because like I still want to do my own thing, but being able to practice with other people regularly, it's very, very motivating. And like the energy that you can raise with the group is just not comparable to a single person alone.
Very true. Is everyone in your coven Norse Pagan, or do they have different beliefs?
Ooh, we are a heavy mix.
Oh,
We're a heavy mix. Like even if you look at our where we come from, like we are a mix of a person from the US, a person from Germany, that's me, a person from Syria, and then we have two dedicants at the moment, one other person from Germany, and then one person from Lithuania. So we're very, very mixed, and we're all basically into different kinds of stuff. So we have like a Luciferian in the coven. We have me, who is like very Norse and Scandinavian inspired. Then our high priestess is more into like Celtic stuff and like British traditional witchcraft / Wicca. And like the two dedicants are pretty new, so I don't think they have that much of a focus yet. But we're very mixed. But that's very exciting.
Yeah, that is very exciting because I don't find that too often, because a lot of covens are Wiccan based here in the US. So you don't find quite a mix like that. But that's, to me, that sounds exciting and fun, and that you would be able to learn so much more. Do you have any difficulties when you get together, that things are too different, that it makes it hard to sort of combine energies? Or is everybody kind of at least similar enough? You have like at least a base practice to get together on?
We haven't had any difficulties yet. Like this far, we're all just very chill. So even if we have some things where we don't really align, even some base things with like, I don't know, one person would like to place the element of air in the east, and another person would like to place it in the south or something. We basically just agree on one way and then practice it like that. Like nobody is that focused on practicing exactly the way that they wanted to, so we can basically just throw everything together. That's the good thing about forming your own coven. You can just create your own tradition. That's very beautiful.
That is very beautiful. That's nice. Nice that you were able to find that. But
Yeah.
speaking of online community, and you mentioned cultural appropriation, I would love to talk about, because I know that this happens to you because we've talked about it, the sometimes hate comments that you get, or difficult comments that you get on YouTube when you put Norse anything in the title of YouTube videos, because that seems to spark so much backlash. And I would love to talk about why that is, and how you handle that as an introvert with anxiety. I mean, they're rough sometimes. I know we've talked about this, like we block people, and like, but this topic, for some reason, it just sets people off like no other.
Yeah, that's very true. I feel like though it is much better on YouTube than it is on TikTok, for example. I recently posted, for example, a random TikTok where it was basically about one person, because I actually had a person comment on, I think it was an Instagram post or something, who said that I can't practice Norse paganism because I'm non-binary, which is ridiculous. Like that doesn't make sense at all.
Isn't that like a staple of the Norse pagan pantheon?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many shapeshifters, and I mean, we have Loki, who is a mother. I was
gonna say Loki.
I mean, you can argue, about like some people like to say that they see Loki as non-binary or gender fluid or something. You can argue about that. Like the sources don't say anything about it, of course. But still, like there's not a single line in any of the sources that says anything about you can't practice Norse paganism if you're X, Y, or Z. So it doesn't make sense to kind of try to make up these rules. And it was crazy to see how many comments there even were. Funnily, there were even comments under this TikTok where people were like, yeah, you can't practice Norse paganism because you're from the US. And I'm like, huh? So I'm from the US apparently now. I don't know where that came from. I mean, I actually find it pretty funny when I get comments like that, because I'm actually from, like, I was born and raised and I lived 18 years of my life on the border to Denmark, in a place of Germany where there were Viking villages south from where I live. So nobody can tell me that I can't be a Norse pagan because of anything. Like, that's just stupid. But you will get a lot of comments like that, like a lot of xenophobia with like people from the US who want to practice Norse paganism for some reason, which I also don't get. And I probably made the mistake to film a video on racism and gatekeeping in the Norse pagan community, because there is a lot. There are unfortunately still a lot of racists who feel like you have to be Northern European or especially Scandinavian to practice Norse paganism, or for some reason they will just say you can't be Black and practice Norse paganism, which also doesn't make sense. And that video actually got so many racist hate comments that I had to turn off the comments completely under that video.
I remember you saying that.
and now I only see the racists rage under that video because this video has so many thumbs down.
No, of course. It's just this topic. And I find that too, anytime I post anything about Norse paganism or have a guest on that talks about Norse paganism, it's both directions. It's people that are like extremely racist and gatekeeping. And then there's like completely the other way that are like, your guest that you have on is not racist enough. I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't have any racists like as guests. And they're like, no, they're totally wrong. And everything that they said about this community being open is wrong, and it's not open at all. And this person is just not racist enough. I'm like, oh. And I think, I mean, is it the symbolism and, the Nazis taking some of the Norse symbolism and appropriating that, or what? I don't know what it is about Norse paganism that gets people so riled.
I feel like nowadays, I don't know if that's kind of heated, but I feel like, yes, for some reason it might be blatant racism why they say, like, I don't know, Black people can't practice it or whatever. I feel like for a lot of people it might also just be fear of the religion being appropriated. Like, for some reason, through like the Marvel movies and comics and stuff, a lot of people find Norse paganism through that. And I feel like a lot of people are just afraid that people won't do their proper research and then will like regurgitate misinformation online, especially on TikTok, which, yes, it does happen, but that's not a reason to try to close a religion that wasn't ever closed to begin with. Like, it's a reconstructed religion. You can't close that. Like, there's no rules anywhere that say that it's closed or that only a specific group of people can practice it. So,
and I don't think that that's the only religion that happens to either. I think people spread misinformation about everything. So I don't understand why this topic gets like so heated, but I do remember your video on that getting so many views and comments, and just people get so angry about it. And to me, for all of the Norse pagans I know that are practicing, I feel like it's one of the most open. Like, you guys are very welcoming to new members, anybody who really practices and enjoys it and works with deities. I feel like every single one of you is like, yes, come on over. These deities are awesome. This practice that I have is great. Runes are great. Like, they want you to like learn and teach everybody else. I don't understand why.
Yeah, I feel like also maybe we are just more outspoken about it than other people and other practices, simply because we have such a big racism problem in the community. So we kind of all have to raise our voices to kind of counteract this image that we're all racists. Sad but true.
It's just frustrating that you have to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so worth the hate comments. Like it's kind of sad that I had to turn off the comments under this one video, because there were also a lot of people commenting under that video like, thank you for making this video, because I never felt like I was allowed to practice this, and now I feel like I can. Now I feel welcome. So it was kind of sad that I had to turn off the comments, but I still get comments like that under other videos or under TikToks. So I'm very, 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 very happy about that. Like, even if I just help a single person feel more welcome in the community, it's worth it.
And I think you do a good job of that, because I love your videos and I love every time that you're teaching about anything Norse paganism related. I mean, I love watching everything about your daily life and your routines. I love when you post that, but I also love your informational ones where you're like posting about runes and things. Like, I always learn something from you. So I think it's really great that you can put that information out there. What made you decide to start a YouTube channel?
It was actually not really me who decided to do it, because it was kind of Odin who decided that. Like, I work with Odin. Like, Odin has been the first deity that I ever really properly worked with, and he likes to push you into challenging situations. And he was actually the one who pushed me into kind of speaking out and sharing knowledge and sharing wisdom and speaking my truth. And that just translated best to like a YouTube to a YouTube channel or something like that. So that is why I initially started it. But I'm so happy that I did. Like, I've met so many great people through my online presence.
Oh, that's great. That's a fun story. I was hoping you were going to say cats. Your cats pushed you into making the YouTube video and be like, yes.
Cats just push themselves into my videos.
they are my favorite part. I have a huge soft spot for animals, so I'm like, yes, give me all of the furry creatures. What is your favorite topic or type of video to make? Because you do make quite a few and you talk about a lot of, great fun, different things, but which one is your particular favorite? Even if it doesn't get the most views, we all know how that is.
That's so hard, because I really like just making chatty videos where I give like my opinion on things. I have quite a lot of them on my channel now. But yeah, I feel like it depends on my energy level, because when I have quite the low energy level and not a lot of time, I think those are my favorite videos to make, because they are both kind of rewarding, but also not too time consuming to make. Because videos where you're sharing a lot of knowledge, of course, you have to do a lot of research beforehand so that you can make sure to not spread any misinformation. But those are, of course, the most rewarding videos to make, but they need a lot of time. So
very, very true. I know how that is.
Yeah, but I really, really like making my videos about the Norse gods. But yeah, finding the time to do all the research is quite challenging.
Speaking of the research that goes into that, do you have any recommendations of resources, besides your YouTube channel, of course, which everyone, I will have linked in the description at witchwednesdays.com and all the places so you can find that. But other than that, do you have any recommendations for books or YouTube channels or other podcasts or anything where people can go to learn about Norse paganism, if it is like their first time or just intro into any sort of witchcraft in general? Do you have any favorite books?
I think my favorite intro when it comes to Norse mythology would probably be the book Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman, because you can read all of or a lot of the stories from the myths, but in a more lighthearted way. Getting right into the Eddas and the sagas is pretty challenging, because most of the translations are pretty old. I mean, Jackson Crawford translated, I think, one of the Eddas like a few years back, I think, but I haven't gotten the book yet, so I don't know how that translation is. But at least the translations of the Eddas that I know are quite hard to read. So that's why I really like Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman, because it's just like any other book you could read, any other fiction book. So I really like that. If you are aware that he invents some stuff, like he fills in some gaps with his own imagination. So you should probably be aware of that and not probably take the stories in there with a bit of a grain of salt. Apart from that, as a like proper introduction book about the practice itself, I really like The Way of Fire and Ice by Ryan Smith, because it's especially about how to practice inclusive paganism. So there's also things about racism and stuff in there, and what you should be aware of and what you should stay away from. So that's a book that I really, really liked, especially because it's quite challenging to find authors that are not problematic, sadly. Because, for example, some authors like Edre Thorsson, you just should stay away from. Don't give him your money. You will find a lot of his books, but please don't give him your money. He doesn't deserve it. When it comes to YouTube channels, extremely beginner-friendly YouTube channels will be a bit challenging, I feel like. But the two that I watch the most and that I personally enjoy most are Ocean Keltoy and Arith Herga, because they're both extremely like research focused. So you can be quite sure that when they put a video out on a topic that is well researched and that you can rely on that information. They won't just spread something that they haven't researched. And I actually really, really like the Heathen Weirdos podcast. That is, I think, a year old or something. It's quite new still. And it's also very, very inclusive. So that's what I really like, because of course the Norse paganism community is very male heavy. So having a podcast that's led by 2 women and 1 non-binary person is cool. That's something different.
That is true and interesting. I have noticed that the Norse community is heavily male, but witchcraft tends to lean female.
Yeah,
so
a lot.
That's a very interesting dynamic there, that it happened that way. I wonder why that is. Maybe it's the appeal of the pantheon. The Norse pantheon is a lot of fun. Guys especially are very into that.
Yeah, it's probably the whole Viking image that just appeals to male, or at least male presenting people more than female presenting people.
That's a good point. The Vikings are, I do love it. It is interesting to me. I am overwhelmed by it. I think that's why I've never gone too far down the Norse paganism path. I did take a ancestry DNA test just for fun, and I am Italian German, and which I knew, and then weird was 25% Norwegian. No idea.
Wow.
That just came out of nowhere. I was like,
that's a lot.
I thought I was all Italian and German, but nope, that Norwegian snuck in there, 25%. I was like, okay, well, new information. So
yes, especially that it's that much. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, I had no idea. It's very interesting to find that out.
Yeah, ancestry, like DNA tests, are interesting and confusing. I took 2 with 2 different companies, and they were kind of vastly different.
Oh, that's really weird. I've only done one. I didn't know they could be different.
I remember one of them said I'm like 40% like British, and like I think it was like Scottish, Welsh, and Irish, and the other test said 0%, and I was like,
what?
How?
I had no idea that they would be different. Oh, that's really weird.
Yeah.
I wonder why. Well, something else I wanted to ask you is, do you have any advice that you could offer somebody looking to grow their practice this year? I mean, it doesn't have to be Norse related. It could be anything related to witchcraft, paganism. Any advice that you have for somebody that's looking to sort of strengthen and deepen their practice this year?
I would definitely say, like, I think that is also one thing that I always tell beginners, because it has helped me a lot, is to kind of figure out your psychic strengths very early on, because a lot of the spells and stuff that you will see are very heavily like sight oriented, like visualizing and stuff and seeing things. And if that is not your strength, like for example, it's not my strength, then knowing what your strength is, for example, if you're good at like feeling energies, for example, then try to adapt the spells to your strength, because it will make it much more powerful and it will work much better and it won't feel that weird.
That is such great advice. I don't think that is something that anyone has ever shared on this podcast before. When I ask what the advice is, I don't think that's come up before. I have like mentioned that in passing, that not everybody is great at visualization, but even I don't think I've ever said you should find what you are great at. What is your strength? What did you figure out if you're not great at visualization?
I am great at feeling energies.
That's yours.
That's definitely mine. Like I can visualize, but it's definitely not not my strength. It's more, feeling definitely. So like when someone would want to charge an object with an intention for something, and they would like visualize the energy being pushed into the object, I would feel it. Like I would feel the energy, I would raise it in my body, feel it, and then like transfer through my arm, through my hand into the object, and that works much better. And unfortunately, it has taken me like 4 years or something to figure that out. So yeah, if beginners can figure that out earlier, then that will help them.
That's a great advice, because I do feel like a lot of spells and things that you see are geared towards visualization, and I understand why. I'm decent at visualization myself, but it's not my chosen medium either. But I do feel that way when I see a lot of things online. I don't have TikTok, but I have seen TikToks like that people have sent me, and they are heavy in that way as well. And then so is YouTube. It's just the popular way to do things. And I think when spells are written in books too, it always says visualize this, and that's not always easy for a lot of people because we do not all work the same.
And a lot of the times it's also like beginners want to like be able to see auras or see spirits or see this or see that, but you don't have to see everything. You can also feel things. Like you can feel someone's energy, and you can feel if there are spirits around. So you don't have to do everything by seeing.
I think that's just something in the way that we are raised, that we are taught, like, if you can't see it, you shouldn't believe it. And we sort of just, tell kids to forget about all of the other things.
That's true.
I had
also you probably it's probably also related to people struggling with trusting their own intuition, because I feel like feeling things is much more intuitive.
It is.
I don't know.
It is. There's a lot more trusting yourself, even though our eyes can lie to us just as much as any other sense. People don't like to believe that, but that's true. But I think it's just people are more willing to trust their eyes rather than anything else. So it takes time to develop a trust in yourself and your intuition, and relying on your other senses. Feeling is a tough one for me. I admit that too. I have never excelled at that. I try though, because I do know, like, I have a brownie in our house. I never see it. I'm never going to see it. That's just not in my skill set. I know sometimes people do, or like see it out of the corner of their eyes. Mine, it's just like all feeling, or like evidence left afterwards. But I have to like trust my feelings on that one, because it's not something that you see.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just hard to trust yourself with things.
Oh, very, very difficult. I think we're all conditioned to not do that either. So I think witchcraft practice is a lot of breaking down those inherited traits and things that we learned about ourselves, and we have to unlearn all of them.
Oh yeah.
So it's a lifelong practice. It's not always easy.
It would be boring if it was easy.
That's true. Maybe that's why we all find it and we sort of like fall down this path. We're looking for something a little more challenging. Well, I think that is all of my questions today. Do you have anything, last things that you want to share that we didn't get to?
Let me quickly think. I mean, we talked about like that would have been one more advice thing for me, was to definitely train your intuition, but we already got into that by ourselves. So
do you have any advice for training? Do you have any tips that worked for you?
I fortunately never had a problem with trusting my own intuition, but a game that I really like to play is to just go into, for example, a crystal shop. For me, that just works really well. And to kind of try to let my intuition pull me to whatever crystal I feel like I need. I feel like that's kind of a nice game to play. But yeah, I personally never really had to train it that much. So unfortunately, I don't have any like proper exercises or anything.
I like that game. That's something I recommend to people too, because then at the end of the day, you come home with a pretty crystal. So I mean, it's a win all around.
It's a reward.
Exactly.
And it's usually exactly the crystals that you need. Like I feel like selecting crystals, you cannot do anything better than trusting your intuition with crystals, because your intuition will guide you towards the energy source that you need in that moment.
I find that very true as well. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your advice and expertise. And I appreciate you taking the time. I know we covered a lot of topics today. So listeners, I'm going to have everything linked in the show notes, everything that we talked about, all the books that were recommended, everything that I can think of. I know we covered a lot of stuff, but absolutely recommend going to check out the YouTube channels, the videos that we recommended. There is so much on your channel to check out, so much great information. If you are interested in Norse paganism at all, like I mentioned, there's runes videos, but deity videos, really everything you have related to great beginner information for diving down this path. So highly recommend. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Listeners, that is everything that I have for you this week. I will see you next week.
Need even more? Subscribe to Patreon and YouTube for exclusive bonus content. Order a themed witchcraft box every month through Witch Wednesdays on Etsy. Be sure to follow on Instagram at Witch Wednesdays Podcast. Find all these links and more at witchwednesdays.com.